Another Slice of Nut Roast by Barrie Mahoney. Moving to another country to live and work is a challenge in so many ways. But if you have specific dietary needs or happen to be a vegetarian, or heaven forbid a vegan, then challenge can take on a whole new meaning. My partner and I are both vegetarians and aspiring to be vegans. We do our best, and we expected that there would be some difficulties ahead of us. For example, I convinced that many Spanish restaurateurs regard tuna as a plant and not a fish. Before ordering a snack or a meal in a restaurant or bar, we would always carefully explain to our waiters, in Spanish, as these we considered to be essential phrases, that we did not eat meat or fish, and could whatever we selected from the menu be without these offending items. Spanish waiters would invariably look at us in a puzzled, if not confused manner, before uttering their usual reassurance. Of course, no problem would nearly always be the confident answer, but invariably our salads, vegetable sandwich or croissant would arrive at our table graced with a liberal portion of tuna, or in the worst cases, chopped ham. The offending waiter always looked very disappointed when we declined to accept the offending dish and asked for another one, but this time without the dreaded tuna. Often we would order tortilla, a Spanish omelette, knowing that the traditional Spanish tortilla, if prepared correctly, consists of eggs, milk, and potatoes. Again, this could not be taken for granted, as sometimes the chefs would add a little extra something to make it more interesting. This little extra something would range from green pepper and onion, which were acceptable, but also chopped ham, liver, and of course the dreaded tuna, which were definitely not. Soya milk, free-range eggs, tofu, corn, and some of those delicious vegetarian ready meals from the likes of Marks & Spencer and Tesco back in the UK were of course no longer available to us, and we had to think long and hard about what we could eat and what we could not eat that would not offend our long-held principles. It was a problem at times, and it seemed that nearly every day we'd have to explain our reasons for being vegetarian to someone. Our first Christmas in Spain would of course be a challenge, and we knew that, but I was confident that we would, as usual, come up with a dish that would put our carnivore friends to shame. I don't really know how it happened. What I can say is that the transformation from being a relatively contented child to one causing concern, anger, and frustration to the adults who cared for me happened very quickly. The focus was for all this concern was my refusal to eat meat. My mother told me that I was about 5 years old, a normal eater, and had just started school. Apparently, within a short space of time being there at school, I'd been brainwashed into refusing to eat anything that had lived, breathed, walked, and swam. Well, for a child growing up in rural Fen and Lincolnshire on the east coast of England, the large expanses of rich dark soil that appeared to go on forever, and the occasional farm, were not the most stimulating of environments or places to find human companionship. There were few children of my age in the area, and I quickly found friendship with animals, both domestic and farm animals. The farmers were a friendly enough lot, always welcoming and happy for me to play with their dogs and cats, feed the chickens and calves, and see the newly hatched chicks. I used to spend a lot of time on the farms, and it was only later that I found it hard to come to terms with the outcome of their business. My parents were always happy for me to have any pet that I wanted to bring into our home, and there was only one rule, and that was I had to demonstrate that I could care for it properly. The consequence of this relatively relaxed approach was a cluster of companions that most people would not believe. Top of the pecking order was Timmy the cat, who was really a dog, Shakespeare the goose, who had escaped Christmas dinner, Sally the neurotic corgi who loved to bite anything that moved, and Tommy, the rather confused Barbary dove who seemed to do nothing but lay eggs and eat Quaker oats. In addition, there were rabbits, guinea pigs, hamsters, chicks, all manner of caged birds, fish, stick insects, terrapins, and the odd overgrown lamb or goat. All became welcome members of my extended family. We'd rescued a donkey for a time until we found him a better home in the grounds of the local children's home. Other children began to bring me their friends to look after as well, when they had tired of them, although my parents didn't approve of this and thought their behaviour was irresponsible. Sadly, I'm still not fond of the Christmas season. Of course, I enjoy the coming together of family and friends, watching children enjoy the magic of Christmas, as well as the deeper meanings and care for others that the season often brings. However, my early experiences as a child still trouble me. During this festive season, my mind always goes back to the traditional celebrations in the Lincolnshire village where I grew up. In Fenland, Lincolnshire, meat was high on the agenda for any occasion, with traditional sausages, pork pies and hasties being the stuff of celebration in many a home. Lesser-known delicacies included chine, a sort of a joint of ham finely sliced across the top, stuffed with parsley and served with vinegar. As I recall, this was one of the more evil concoctions that my two elder brothers loved so much. The most horrific dish, and one which still haunts me to this day, must have been brawn, made from boiling a pig's head. The resultant disgusting mass of jelly and meat would then form a sort of solid pudding, which would then be served cold and eaten with great relish. It was all so much worse during the Christmas and New Year period. Months of discussion seemed to centre on, should we have a turkey or goose this year, dear? There were endless discussions about where we should order the poor creature from and when it should be collected. How I hated the run up to Christmas. I could see lorry loads of animals leaving the farm next door on their way to the abattoir. Many of these animals I'd have chatted to on the way to school, given a handful of hay or grass, and now the place was empty. Shed loads of chickens, geese and turkeys fell silent. I also remember a few days before Christmas when there was a lot of hushed talk between workers on the fields who'd be drafted in for the great slaughter. The killing night, it was romantically called. This was the night when there'd be the mass breaking of necks and plucking of the fowl ready for Christmas lunch. Yes, it was time once again for the great annual cull and Christian celebration. Christmas. How I hated it. I could readily understand the part about peace and goodwill to all men. But what about the animals? Perhaps these early experiences explain a little as to why I gave up eating meat at such an early age. Although I did not understand the implications of animals being produced for food until much later, I had no concept of vegetarianism, and no one had ever tried to tell me not to eat meat. It just seemed to happen and to be the right thing to do. The years ahead were to be a challenge both at home and at school. My poor mother was always worried about me and that I'd die from lack of nutrition. My big brothers would tease me endlessly and chase me with chicken legs, and school dinners would continue to be a nightmare and haunt me into adulthood. Nowadays, I'm still asked the same question that I was asked at the age of 5. Why don't you eat meat? And I still give the same answer. I don't like eating my friends. Or, as an alternative, I don't eat anything with a face or a mother. It's not meant to be flip, petulant, or a trite retort. It's just the way that I feel. Fortunately, even in Spain, we live in much more enlightened times, and being a vegetarian or a vegan is no longer as usual as it was. As it turned out, I did not suffer or die from lack of nutrition. Neither am I wasting away, as anyone who knows me will confirm. As I sit tucking into my slice of nut roast and all the trimmings, I feel grateful I can raise my glass and wish all my friends, a happy and peaceful Christmas. You have been listening to another slice of Nut Roast by Barrie Mahoney, and this is part of the Letters from the Atlantic series. If you'd like to find out more about me, my books, podcasts and blogs, please go to my website, which is www.barriemahoney.com, and that's Barrie with an IE. And thank you for listening.